The Mesopotamian civilization is one of the oldest civilizations in the world. Mesopotamia is a historical region of Western Asia situated within the Tigris-Euphrates river system, in the northern part of the Fertile Crescent. It occupies the area of present-day Iraq and Kuwait, and parts of Iran, Syria, and Turkey. The Sumerians and Akkadians, later split into Assyrians and Babylonians, dominated Mesopotamia from the beginning of written history in 3100 BC to the fall of Babylon in 539 BC. As early towns grew, they had to develop new systems of government, new means to store and distribute food, and new ways to protect themselves. The strongest settlements expanded their territory by conquering their neighbors, creating the first empires. One of the most powerful early empires belonged to the Babylonians. In the 18th century BCE, they conquered a large area in what is now the Middle East, but were then defeated by their rivals, the Hittites. They rose to power again in the 6th century BCE, and their capital city Babylon became one of the richest and most magnificent cities the ancient world. In ancient times, wealthy cities were targets for raiding nomads and enemy armies. Babylon was defended by strong walls of mud brick. Defensive technology at Babylon was very magnificent. Babylon was famously well defended. Soldiers on the walls could rain rocks, spears and arrows down on any attackers. Ancient Babylon was famous for its monumental buildings. The Ishtar Gate marked the ceremonial entrance to Babylon. It was used for religious processions as well as normal traffic. The lavish royal palace was the symbol of the king's power, designed to inspire awe in his subjects and enemies. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon were one of the 7 wonders of the world. Nobody knows for sure where they stood, but the foundations of terraced gardens were found in Babylon in the early 20th century. Babylonians had an organized religion. The monarchy's ziggurat was a temple dedicated to Marduk, the patron god of the city. The Mesopotamians depended on rivers Tigris and Euphrates for agriculture. Babylon depended on the water supplies from the river Euphrates for drinking and fertile soil for farming. The Euphrates was also a vital trade route for boats. As empires grew, their people required detailed written laws to resolve disputes and protect property. The Babylonian king, Hammurabi, created a detailed system of laws in about 1750 BCE with brutal punishments if they were broken. The other major cities of the Mesopotamian civilization included Uruk, Nineveh, Ashur, Lagash, Nippur, etc. The Babylonians had their own style of writing called cuneiform. The Mesopotamians were experts in astronomy. Assyrian star planisphere found in the library of the Assyrian king Ashurbanipal reigned 668 to 627 BCE of Nineveh. The function of this unique 13 cm diameter clay tablet, in which the principal constellations are positioned in 8 sectors, is disputed, but the texts and drawings appear to be astro-magical in nature. From Sumerian times, temple priesthoods had attempted to associate current events with certain positions of the planets and stars. This continued to Assyrian times, when limb lists were created as a year-by-year association of events with planetary positions, which, when they have survived to the present day, allow accurate associations of relative with absolute dating for establishing the history of Mesopotamia. The Babylonian astronomers were very adept at mathematics and could predict eclipses and solstices. Scholars thought that everything had some purpose in astronomy. Most of these related to religion and omens. Mesopotamian astronomers worked out a 12-month calendar based on the cycles of the moon. They divided the year into 2 seasons, summer and winter. The origins of astronomy as well as astrology date from this time. Agriculture. The Tigris and Euphrates river valleys form the northeastern portion of the Fertile Crescent, which also included the Jordan River Valley and that of the Nile. Although land nearer to the rivers was fertile and good for crops, portions of land farther from the water were dry and largely uninhabitable. Thus the development of irrigation became very important for settlers of Mesopotamia. Other Mesopotamian innovations include the control of water by dams and the use of aqueducts. Early settlers of fertile land in Mesopotamia used wooden plows to soften the soil before planting crops such as barley, onions, grapes, turnips, and apples. Mesopotamian settlers were some of the first people to make beer and wine. Medicine. The oldest Babylonian texts on medicine date back to the Old Babylonian period in the first half of the 2nd millennium BC. The most extensive Babylonian medical text, however, is the Diagnostic Handbook written by the chief scholar, Asagil King Epleh of Borsippa, during the reign of the Babylonian king Edekla-Edina during 1069 to 1046 BC. Along with contemporary Egyptian medicine, the Babylonians introduced the concepts of diagnosis, prognosis, physical examination, enemas, and prescriptions. In addition, the Diagnostic Handbook introduced the methods of therapy and etiology and the use of empiricism, logic, and rationality in diagnosis, prognosis and therapy. The text contains a list of medical symptoms and often detailed empirical observations along with logical rules used in combining observed symptoms on the body of a patient with its diagnosis and prognosis. Mesopotamian trade with the Indus Valley Civilization flourished as early as the 3rd millennium BC. For much of history, Mesopotamia served as a trade nexus, east-west between Central Asia and the Mediterranean world, as well as north-south between the Eastern Europe and Baghdad. Mesopotamian civilization became a part of the Achaemenid Empire with the conquest of Babylon by Achaemenid forces under Cyrus the Great of Persia in 539 BC. Thereafter Mesopotamia became the territory of foreign empires for centuries. Gradually the great civilization fades from the world, but its ideas would prevail throughout history. Thanks for watching and don't forget to subscribe.